or the top, depending on your screen.
Okay, I think it's recording now. Sorry about that, everybody. So one thing that we had in the lab section on Canvas for a handout was a handout that looked like this. So this has our sample yogurt formula, as well as the corrections, and then the chocolate chip cookie recipe that we'll be using later. And this sample yogurt formula is really important because it gives us these TechWizard reference numbers. And additionally, it will give us the ingredient declaration name, meaning what we want it to say on the declaration. So we'll come back to this in a little bit, but right now I'm just focusing on adding these ingredients to the TechWizard. And I want to make sure that I'm using the exact same ingredients because different ingredients will have different compositions in the TechWizard, and it could give you the wrong nutrition label. So I'm going to use these values and enter in my ingredients here. So you can see up here in the search ingredient list, you have ingredients or reference number. So if I use the reference number, I can type in those numbers and hit search. And here I can match up that it says milk 3.7% fat. It matches the reference number TWZ007, and I'm going to click this green add button. And you'll see that it adds up here, as well as in the background, it adds to your ingredient list here. If anyone's lost or I'm going too fast, please let me know and I can repeat myself or slow down. So now I'm just going to add the rest of my ingredients. So milk, skim, no vitamin A added, it matches. And then I have my milk skim condensed, 35% total solids. I'm going to add that. And then 0132, sweetener, sugar, liquid. Add that. Modified starch. So I am going to show you something really quickly, which is why I say it's very important to match the name of the ingredient as well as the number. So if I hit 0096, it takes me to lactic acid. So it doesn't take me to the correct modified starch ingredient that it's supposed to be. So if I go to ingredient and I type in modified starch and hit search, now I'm having the correct starch ingredient that is on my list, and I can see the reference number matches. So I will hit add. And then again, back to my reference number, I will add my stabilizer. And then when I'm done and I see all of my ingredients here, I'm going to hit close. So it's very important when you're navigating this that you always hit apply, save, and close instead of just exiting here, as sometimes that will trip up the software and then it won't load your ingredients. So you can hit close then from here, and you have all of your ingredients listed here. Then on table 5.1 in your lab manual, you see that there is all your ingredients and then formula number 1 and formula number 2. So we're going to add in the ingredients for formula number 1 right here in these boxes. So as you can see here, these are blue boxes. This was something I should have specified earlier. There's blue boxes or cells, and then there's white boxes and cells. And you cannot edit the white cells or white boxes as they're fixed in the software, and they're a calculation based on what you enter into the blue boxes. So if you are trying to edit something and it says protected sheet, that means that you're trying to edit something that cannot be edited as the software. So you're either in the wrong section or you need to click something else, and I can show you that here in a little bit. So in all of my blue boxes, I'm going to enter in my formula weight. Also, excuse me, I do talk to myself. So now I have my formula all listed here in my percent weight by weight as the first formula, and then at the end I see a total as 100%. So each of these ingredients all together gives me 100% formula. So what I'm going to tell you is about the fixed cell is that it tells us in step 4 that you need to change the serving sizes. And this is what Laura was talking about on the changes to your addendum. Instead of 8 in the common household, you're going to add 2/3 cup. So here I'm going to try and edit this. And it says, you cannot do this because it's a protected sheet. To make this change, unprotect the sheet. You might request or enter a password. Well, we don't need to enter a password. What we can do is hit this serving size button, and then it will let us change that to 2/3 and hit OK. And then we're going to drop this down to cup. Then we're going to do the same thing for the metric quantity, which is in this box. And instead of 100 grams or 237 as it is in your lab manual, you're going to have 170 grams. So that changes everything there. Then, before moving into making our label, this is what I was talking about a little earlier, you must save everything that you have. So you're going to go to File, and then Save Formula As. And here in the formula name, I'm going to enter my name. It tells you in the addendum or the manual too, exactly how to save everything. So I'm going to say yogurt formula number 1. And then I will hit save. And I will say OK. And it should pop up here under formula name and ID. That way you know you've saved it. Then you're going to go to view label. Here I have a really nice label, but we're missing a couple of things on it. So it tells you in step 7 that you need to add the ADV for protein. So you're going to go to label options. You're going to select protein. It says show ADV, and then PDCAAS 0 through 1. PDCAAS is something that Pam's going to talk about later in lecture. So for today's purposes, just know that you need to set this to 1, and then we'll discuss why later. And then again, you have to hit apply and close, as it won't do that unless you apply and close it. The software needs you to use those buttons. So now I have this nutrition label, and we can see that it's now listed the protein and the % daily value. What you need to do to save this is that you are going to open a Word document. And again, these computers or this software, the virtual software, it will erase all of your documents by midnight. So you will have to email this to yourself through the virtual software or put it on your Google Drive, whatever is easiest. So now that I have this open, I'll go back to the TechWizard software. I'm going to go to labeling and copy, and then standard label. So it says enter 1 or 2 to copy the label. The 1 is the new label format and 2 is the old. We want the new label format. You're going to hit OK. And then it's been copied, and I can go to my Word document and say yogurt formula number 1 and hit paste. It's really important you do it this way, because if you are to drag and copy and paste this, it's not going to format the way you want. It will show up as a list and a bunch of codes. So to have it formatted as a nutrition label, you must copy and paste it through the software. Then what we're going to do next is view and edit the declaration. And it will ask you if you want to generate a simple formula declaration. You're going to say yes. And this is also where that handout comes in handy. So I had talked about the ingredient declaration name. So all of these are what they should look like on the ingredient list. If I go back to the TechWizard software, it has generated this preview. You can see very lightly at the bottom of what your declaration looks like. So one thing that we know from food science, hopefully, is that everything needs to be listed in the % weight by weight. So from the highest used ingredient to the least. And to do that, you can do sort declaration high to low here and make sure that it's all within descending order. And if not, you could select one and then move it, but it was in the right order. So I'm going to hit OK. And then yes, we're going to keep changes. And then this option will pop up every single time. Just go ahead and hit yes. And then you are going to now edit your declaration. So if you have this drop down, it shows you all of your ingredients and you can click on them and then edit what they should say. So this says milk, and what we need it to say per our handout is milk 3.7% fat. So going back to the declaration, we're going to come over here and type in 3.7% fat. I wanted to tell you that it's very important that you keep your formatting for this consistent throughout the whole process and with each ingredient. So if you want it to all be capitalized like this, then keep it all capital, or do one higher case and the rest of them lowercase, but just make sure that everything you have is consistent. And then again, you have to hit apply for each ingredient. So I'm going to say yes. And then we're going to go down to our skim milk, and we're going to look at the declaration. Skim milk, that's exactly what it should be. We'll go to the milk, skim, and condensed, and from our list, milk, skim, condensed. So we'll click that. So you'll just go through and make sure that it matches what it needs to say per your handout for the ingredient declaration. And I know that the rest of these are correct. So in order to add this to our Word document, we're going to hit again copy here. Okay, we're going to go to our Word document and we're going to hit enter, and then we're going to copy and paste it right under the nutrition label. Then you're ready to go on to your next one. I'm not going to walk through the entire second yogurt formula with you. You'll be able to do that on your own. But I just wanted to say, you don't have to remove and re-add all of the ingredients. You can simply change the percent weight by weight here to match the yogurt formulas, but make sure that you go back and do save formula as, and then do yogurt formula number 2. And don't overwrite your yogurt formula number 1, because you'll need to go back and reload yogurt formula number 1 later in the process for the next step that I'm going to show you. So next, I'm going to talk you through the second task, which is 5.3 in your manual. And this is going to be adding a new ingredient. We're going to make up an ingredient and then determine how that influences the label. So in order to do that, in 5.3.1, it tells you to go to Edit Ingredient File tab. So we're going to go to Edit Ingredient File. And then it says hit Edit Current File. Here we have all of the ingredients that are in the system, as well as where they come from and all of their compositions. We're going to add our own ingredient. Let's say we are, maybe a General Mills or Cargill, and we've created this new ingredient and we've run all the specs on it, and now we want to add it into the system so we can do formula development and labeling information on it. And in order to do that, we're going to go to Edit Ingredient File and Add. And then here we are going to edit our ingredient name, or enter our ingredient name. So it tells you in step 1 exactly how to add it. So we're adding dairy calcium 100, and then Rachel. That's my name. And you're going to hit add. You're going to save it and then hit close. So now it's going to update. And what happens next is we need to add the information for this, this ingredient that we added. So we are going to go down to dairy calcium 100 Rachel. That's our ingredient. And in order to edit this, I can't just scroll over and try to type in here because it's a protected sheet. So once again, you'll have to highlight this entire row, and you're going to go to the Edit Ingredient File, and you're going to hit Edit Selected. So now all of my cells are blue. Looking at table 5.2, you have all of the information that you need to enter. What I want to show you is that for the information we don't have, you're not going to add 0. You're just going to simply leave that cell blank. So we're going to go over to ASH and enter 75. If I pass it, please let me know. So 75, and we're just going to follow this. So something else I wanted to show you that's important is that when you edit this, so I'm going to add my calcium. This is how it looks, and I have my cursor still here. And the software hasn't recognized that I changed that value until I hit to my next one and it adds the decimal points there. So you need to make sure that you go to your next one to log the number into the software before you hit your finish edit so that it recognizes you've changed that cell. So I'm going to, you get the point. We will go through this. I'm going to add them really quickly. If anyone has questions, please feel free to chime in or ask. Phosphorus. Sugars. Total carbohydrates. And then water. So that's the last of the list. However, if you look at step 3 in 5.3.1, it then tells you to edit the ingredient declaration. So you're not going to finish your editing yet. You're going to keep scrolling over until you see ingredient declaration. So this is going to change what it will show up on your ingredient file. And it tells you to enter in whey mineral concentrate. And again, I'm going to hit the tab over so it recognizes that and select finish edit. Do you wish to save changes to the ingredient file? Yes. So now that we've saved this, we're going to go back over to, well, we're not going to go back over. We're now going to enter a new tab called Formula Development and Batching. So here we're going to open this, and you can see it's blank. What we can do now is open, maybe. Open formula, and I'm going to find my yogurt number 1. So Rachel yogurt formula number 1, open. It will say this formula was created in the nutrition label. It's usually opened in that labeling section. Do you wish to go there and open the file? We're going to hit no because we want to open it in the formula development and batching tab. And then we can hit the, or it will close on its own. Now, in order to edit this and add our ingredient, we're going to, again, go to add ingredients. And we're going to look up our ingredient and select add. Now we see it on the list and we will close. So at this point, you now need to calculate the amount of calcium that you will need to meet a 50 and 100% of the daily value. And you can see the example in step 7. So I will tell you about 2 changes to this, and then you will have to calculate these on your own. So the first change is that under the example in the second line where it says calcium required for 50% of the DV equals 1,300 milligrams over 227 grams, you're going to change the 227 to 170. And then it will show you that the calcium required for the 50% DV, it says 286 milligrams per 100 grams. However, if you do the calculation from the one we just changed, it should be 382. So if it's 382 for the percent, for the 50% daily value, what we can do is go over to the calcium under the properties here. As I find it. Oh, here it is. So calcium. And then again, we see these blue boxes, and it tells you in step 8 that you need to change. It says calcium in the property column, enter 286. Again, we just calculated that it's going to be 382. So you're going to enter 382 in the min and max columns for calcium. So 380.
Can there's a request to repeat, and I can't see the min max.
I'm sorry, Cindy, I didn't hear you.
Session requested that you repeat what you were saying, I think, on how you get to something.
Oh.
Cindy, we have a hard time hearing you. You're cutting off. If you want to type in the chat, that would be good.
Let me see. Oh, the numbers. Okay, so if you go to step 7, let me make sure that this is what you're talking about, Shushwan. So in step 7, you want me to repeat the changes?
Yeah, I just lost the numbers.
Oh, it's okay. Okay, so for the calcium required, it gives you this sample calculation. And then underneath it, it gives you some numbers in it. So it says calcium required for 50% of the DV, and it says 1,300 milligrams over 227 grams. And you need to change the 227 to 170 grams.
Okay.
And then if you do that calculation, it tells you that the amount of calcium that you need for 50% of the daily value is 382. So it says 236, sorry, I have it crossed out, but it says 236 and you need to change that to 382.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. So because we got 382, I'm going to come over now to my calcium and go over here and say that we need 382 for calcium for the minimum and maximum. And then we can scroll up to our formula and we're going to select for each ingredient. Then in step 8, it tells you what you need to enter for the minimum and maximum for each of our ingredients. So for our milk, the 3.7% fat, we're going to control everything at the percent it's at except for the milk skim, no vitamin A added. So here I'm just going to enter 0.201. So this is going to control that we need all of these to remain at the correct inclusion. And then we're not going to set a minimum and maximum for our skim milk vitamin A, no vitamin A added, or our dairy calcium number. And what this is going to do is it's going to calculate using the information on these two ingredients, how they need to be included in order for us to reach that 382 milligrams per 100 grams for our 50% daily value. However, before we, nope, sorry, I got ahead of myself really quick. So we're going to then hit formulate. It says success, formula meets all constraints. So here it's changed the value for the skim milk and it's told us our inclusion of our new ingredient at a percent weight by weight. You need to record these values in your lab notebook as they pertain to question number 2. So what you'll need to do is now calculate the percent for 100% daily value. And then you will change the constraints down here for calcium and then do the same thing. However, before you move on to any of that, and before you look at your label, you need to hit File and then Save Formula As. So I'm going to say Rachel yogurt formula number 1, 50% DB, and hit Save. So if you don't save, it will overwrite that first formula, and you will have to then start over and make your first formula again. So before we go to our labeling tab, you're going to save that, and then you will again go over to labeling and look at the labeling section. However, you can see we still have the yogurt formula number 1 down here, and we don't see our value. So what you can do is hit this Get Formula from Formula Development. And what this is going to do is communicate with the Formula Development tab and transfer over. So do you wish to continue? Yes. Now we have all the information that we need to move forward. Now we can hit View Label, and we get a new label with the information that we need, and we can see that calcium equals 50% for our daily value. So we know that it's correct. Again, you're going to save all of these labels, and you're going to go to Labeling, Copy, Standard Label, want number 1, OK. And then we would go to our Word document and paste it. Again, you need to go to your View and Edit Declaration and make sure that everything is how it's supposed to be on your ingredient label, which is here. So we know that milk is supposed to be milk, 3.7% fat, and hit Apply. And then I would go through and do that to everything. I wanted to show you, see how the whey mineral concentrate is in a different format than the rest of them? You want to make sure that your formatting matches and you don't have any, like some that are lowercase and some that are capitalized. And again, you're going to want to go Sort Declaration, Low to High, and make sure that you have everything in descending order. However, we can see that with the inclusion of our Dairy Calcium 100 ingredient, that it is not in the right place. So we'll have to put it in descending order. And then hit OK. Yes, we're going to keep changes. Yes, we wish to make that change. And then again, copy and paste this into your Word document. Are there any questions on the second activity? Okay, so then quickly, we're going to walk through the cookie ingredient. And this is not a section in your lab manual. It's actually question number 5 in the questions after the exercises. So if you look through that, it does tell you that you're going to make a nutrition label using chocolate chip cookie recipe, which is in table 5.3. In order to do this, it tells you to use the USDA standard reference website. However, they've changed the website as well as the TechWizard software this year, so this is something we couldn't edit. I'm very sorry about it. So you'll just have to bear with me and take good notes on this part, and I will show you exactly what you need to do. So in order to start on this, we are going to remove all of our ingredients. Yes. And then you will add your ingredients just how we did before on the yogurt formula using these TechWizard reference numbers and making sure that the TechWizard names match with the numbers. So I'm going to go through doing this. Brown sugar. So this is another one that it doesn't take me to the right ingredient. So I will type in the ingredient name, and that is the butter. And then we want salted. And I match the number to the one that's on your handout and hit add. And then I go back to the reference number for my salt. And again, I will add that and make sure everything is here and hit close. Now we don't have a percent weight by weight here. What we have in table 5.3 is a recipe. It says ingredients, amount, and then grams. So instead of calculating the grams, you can see we have some that are missing values. We are going to, I think there's a question on the chat. Maybe.
Cindy saying you
You
forgot
forget the egg.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Add my eggs in there. Because I don't have reference number. So egg, whole, fresh, same reference number, add. And then close. So now, instead of having the percent weight by weight, we are going to enter the recipe. And to do that, you're gonna go under the labeling tab and hit enter recipe right here. And here we have all of our ingredients, and we're going to highlight one and enter the amount here. So for our flour, we need 2.25, and then this is pounds, but we need to enter it in cups. So we're gonna enter all of these as a volume of the recipe before moving forward. And for each ingredient, you have to hit this update button so that it will save. So we'll go through and enter the values for each of these. So again, 0.75 cups. And then for candies, we have 100 and it wants you to use grams. So we'll use this drop down and find grams, which I went the wrong way. And then again, you'll hit update. For the brown sugar, you need 0.75 and then again cups. For the butter, you need 1 cup. For the salt, sorry, I had to skip around because I entered them wrong. So 0.75 teaspoon. So make sure you're adding either teaspoon or tablespoon. I have faith in you. And then for the egg, this is different than what you have in your manual. So it says 2 units, but they've updated the software. So now we can enter 2. And in the dropdown, instead of units, it says egg. And you'll hit update, and then it will save. So you'll hit OK. And it will now transfer in your percent weight by weight for all of these ingredients. Again, they're out of order a little bit because of you entered a recipe and then it went to the percent weight by weight. So when you edit your ingredient declaration, you're gonna wanna make sure that you have them in descending order. Once you have this, you're not quite done yet. What you need to do is add the amount of added sugars for the semi-sweet chocolates, as it doesn't have this information. I think maybe another question in the chat. Yes, we can hit the sort button. I'm gonna keep moving forward though. So when we go to the labeling section, there's something called composition. And then we're going to look at the chocolates and scroll over. And we're going to see the amount of added sugar is 54.5 for sugars. And all of the sugar that's in this candy is added sugars. So we're gonna go over to our added sugars line. Again, keep in mind these are all blue tabs, so we can edit them. And we're gonna enter 54.5. And then tab over so it registers. And now we can hit, well, we need to save our formula. And now we can view our label, which is not correct because I didn't change my serving sizes. So we'll go back. And again, you'll have to change your serving sizes to match what it says in your question number 5. So it'll be 1 piece and then 30 grams. And now it should be correct. We can hit our label and we can see that we have an ingredient or the question number 5 done. And you will again do the declaration and copy and paste that in. So you'll go through and make sure that all of these ingredients match exactly what it says here under ingredient declaration name for each. And then make sure that they are all in high to low. So you would have to move all these ingredients to be from the highest to the lowest, and then you would save them. And then once you're done with this, you'll go and you'll watch the reverse engineering. And this is procedure 5.4.1. And again, if you just read it very thoroughly, it will walk you through. What you need to do when you do this reverse engineering demonstration is take thorough notes on it so that you can answer a question in your lab report, which is about summarizing how you would use the reverse engineering.
Rachel, it's not a question. They're in the results section. They will just have to put that paragraph.
Okay.
Tell them about it at the end.
Okay, so Pam will talk about it at the end, but make sure you take thorough notes in your lab notebook about doing the reverse engineering. And then again, for +2, you can do a reverse engineering on your own. So if there's no questions, I am done with my demonstration. And we can start going through. I'm going to stop sharing. Well, maybe there's a question.
Okay, I think at this point then, right now, this is instructions for your first lab report. I'm going to assume that all of you will have access to the program one way or the other today, tomorrow, or Wednesday, the latest. We will work with IT to ensure that we resolve this problem so that you can access the program. Once you're able to access it, just go through the program, and if you have any questions, you can email all of us, copy all of us, and one of us will be checking that email at the time that you're running it and try to answer you as quickly as we can to guide you through the program. Try not to work on it like really midnight or late in the evening and you have questions. As Rachel mentioned or Laura mentioned, if you're there and working by midnight, all the files are deleted. So try to work on it earlier during the day and save your files and let us know if you have questions. Okay, for the lab report, I will explain today in lecture that there are 2 types of lab report that you will be submitting. One we call partial lab report, and the other we call full lab report. And we do have the lab report format document on Canvas in the general folders at the beginning, top of the page under modules. So I will go over that today with you in class in detail. In that, you'll see that we have 4 labs where you write, or 4 lab reports that are full lab reports, and 6 lab reports that are partial lab reports. With partial lab report, you would typically have your name and signature. Since it's going to be electronic instead of signature, that's just initials. Usually what I tell the students is if we have your name and signature, or initial in this case when we're doing online submission, It's just you telling me that it's your own work. You didn't work with anybody on your lab report. While labs can be done in groups, and we'll have some labs where we do groups of 2 or some labs groups of 4 or 5, the writing of the lab report is individual. And we do have a system to kind of track lab reports and look to see if there is any overlap between submitted lab reports or previous lab reports, even from previous years. So I do hope that your initial would just mean that you worked on this lab report individually and it's in your own true work. Every lab report, you need a title. So you will have a descriptive laboratory title. So you don't say just nutrition labeling or tech wizard. You would say, for instance, creating nutrition label for yogurt, samples, and cookies using the Tech Wizard program. That is a detailed, descriptive, but not too long. Also, it's not a paragraph. For a partial lab report, you would include a results section. And in your results section, you will put your data. In this lab in particular, your data are your nutrition labels. So when you create your nutrition labels and save them in a file, then you take that label and you take your ingredient list and you put it under the label and you create a figure and you call that figure underneath that label and ingredient declaration. You will write figure 1, for example, and you give the figure 1 a description. We call it figure legend. So you go, if it's the yogurt formula 1, you would say nutrition label and ingredient declaration for yogurt formula 1. So again, your figure legend would be descriptive and would tell anybody what your figure is about. Don't say just nutrition label, don't say just ingredient declaration. It's both your nutrition label and ingredient declaration of what? Of your yogurt formula 1 or yogurt formula 1 with 50% calcium and so on. So you have 4 labels that you would put in the results sections: yogurt formula 1, yogurt formula 2, and then the yogurt with 50% added calcium and the yogurt with 100% added calcium. So you'll have 4 figures. So in the results section, you're going to have 4 figures. And then you will have a yogurt label comparison table. So you will create a table and then you will list your yogurt formulas, yogurt formula 1, 2, 50% calcium, 100% calcium in different columns. And then your rows will be any component of nutrition label that is different among the 4 labels. So calcium, for example, will be different. So you would list calcium and you state the calcium daily value percentage for each of the different yogurt. Its fat is different. So fat will be 1 or saturated fat and so on. So any component of your label that would be different, not necessarily different for all, but one formula is different from the other 3, then you would list that component. So you will have that 1 table. So 4 figures, 1 table. And then finally, in the results section, well, not finally, you have another usually section. We have calculations. Any calculations you do in the lab or for the data, you include in that section in your lab report. For this particular lab report, it's simple. Only the calculation that you do for either 50% daily calcium or 100% daily calcium. You show one example where you put the equation and then you plug in the numbers with all the units, and then you give the answer, final answer with the final unit. So last, you will have a short paragraph. So when you watch the reverse engineering, you take notes in your lab notebook, and then you create a very short paragraph, 4 to 5 sentences, where you just summarize the steps of what you have observed, why this reverse engineering would be important, and what would be an application for reverse engineering. For example, I did mention last time that an application of a reverse engineering would be when you're competing in an industry and you want to know what the formula is of a competitor. So this gives you an idea when you plug in the program, the nutrition label, and then you plug in the information, the list of ingredients, then it would calculate the formula for you, or estimated formula. If you use any abbreviation, please make sure you have footnotes like in the table. If you put Ca, for instance, that's for calcium, you have a footnote in under your table defining Ca. Ca is calcium. Dv is daily value, or percent dV is percentage of daily value. So make sure your table is complete in terms of abbreviation. Do not use abbreviation that are not defined. You have to define all abbreviations. So that's your results section. And then you have a list of questions that you would want to answer. I believe there's 1 to 5 questions. Question 2, you would be doing calculations as you go, as Rachel explained. And then question 5 is the cookie. So do not put the figure of the cookie in the results section. You put it under question 5, and you create the figure same as you did for results. You'll have the label, the ingredients, list of ingredients, and that would be your figure 5. You will give figure 5 and then the legend. So make sure you have that. And then after you answer questions, you would list your appendices. Every lab, we do have an appendix or 2. It could be the Excel sheet file with the data that we give you. It could be chromatograms from HPLC or GC. So when I say list them, you would give the section title appendices, and underneath you would go Appendix A. And what is your Appendix A? The nutrition labels in this case. Your raw data is your nutrition label, and you go, might be confusing. You already put it in the results. What do you want to put in the appendix? All of your labels without creating a figure. It's basically the same thing. We're just teaching you how to do an appendix or how to put in data in the appendix. So it's the same thing, but not figure, without the figure number and the figure legend. That's how it is. When you save it in a Word document, you just take it and put it in an appendix. That's it. For your results section, you create a figure number and a figure legend for each label and each list of ingredients. So that is your raw data. Also in the appendix, so Appendix B can be extra credit. So if you want to get the +2 in your lab report, you can do the extra credit. Come back and get any product as explained earlier and try to create a nutrition label for that product. And you just put the image of the original label, the TechWizard generated label, and just a little, like few sentences describing any differences or challenges you have had while you were trying to create that label. So that would be in the appendix. So you would put Appendix A, raw data, Appendix B, the extra credit, and then you attach, then on the next page, you put your raw data, all of your labels and list of ingredients, and then your other one would be your second, on the second page, you would have your extra credit attached. And then at the top, label each appendix again. So if you have the raw data appendix, just put on the top raw data. And then for the extra credit, put at the top extra credit and the name of the product that you are generating a label. So usually partial lab reports don't take a lot of time. They're straightforward, but for the first lab report, what I usually do is I offer the student to look at the previous lab report. So if you're curious and you want to look at the lab report, just email me. I'll do a quick Zoom with you and share my screen. And I'll tell you, I don't take any pictures of it. And I will walk you through the lab report together. Just send me an email if you want to see a previous lab report and how it's structured. Again, I'll spend a little bit more time today explaining the differences between partial and full lab report later in class. Do you have any questions? Please unmute yourself, ask directly, or type in the chat.
Hey Pam, I have a question.
Yes.
Could you repeat the yogurt label comparison table? Like how should I structure it?
Yeah, you know what? I'll share really quick. Laura or Rachel, can you give me a sharing? If you